Not as stuck as we thought.
I declare this fan open.
Alright, good morning. So the frame has been drying overnight. One thing that we need to do before we start sticking the frame and things like that is to actually make a hole for where the fan wire needs to go.
There we go.
Alright,
That'll fit. Plenty of space.
First we need to dry fit the frame. Alright, so that started smoking, so that might be the paint, but we decided to just change the drill just in case we're using the wrong one.
That's the right drill bit.
Ooh, cool. The camera hadn't even focused.
Alright, well let's do the other holes.
It was so fast, the camera couldn't focus.
So now that we've drilled the pilot holes, we're going to drill a bigger hole because the jigsaw can't fit through those holes. Line that up.
How's it going?
It's the wrong drill bit.
Nope, 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 nope. Too small, definitely too small. Nope, 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 nope. All the drills we have, we don't have a big one to cut this steel. It says metal. What kind of metal are you used for? So we're about to cut the fan hole out. So as demonstrated before by many other people, we're going to be putting a plastic bin bag to capture the metal shards and the actual panel as well. Alright, so we're cleaning with alcohol now.
Basically gets rid of all the grease and the dirt, because when the blade is cutting you don't want that going into the nice clean metal.
So we're using the outermost edge of those circles as our joining points.
As our guide.
In a bit to protect the roof from scratching, we're also putting some duct tape on the bottom.
So that's 2 down.
Yeah.
What we're going to do, I'm going to cut, but I'm going to leave a little bit on that bit edge.
Yeah.
3 down.
Okay.
Dude, that is not a safe place to put your phone. As we cut the last side, this is going to drop further and further down like that. It's going to make it harder to cut. We need to pull this level. So
what are you doing?
Use a bit of tape, like that.
Alright, I would not have folded like that, but okay. So I'm gonna hold the tape up.
And the camera, and I'll cut.
Yeah. The bin bag is a must because look at how many metal shavings there are just visible here in the corner. There's probably more underneath this.
Yeah, and basically all of these metal shavings, if they get in contact with the metal of your van underneath, they have no rust protection on, so these will start rusting and it will rust your van.
Yeah, look at this one. This one's cool.
It's like a snake skin.
I know. I need to get all of these little metal shavings off your roof as well. So that now fits, we sanded it back and that tooth fits as well. Now when it comes to these ones, the side ones, because they're resting on the ribs, like this, or basically the flaps are resting on the ribs, it's not actually letting that rim come down. Yeah, there you go, you can see the holes. Are you sure we should cover up this hole? Look at that.
Well, I think it might get a little bit wet inside if we don't cover it.
But we like camping.
Even tents don't have holes in them.
But then, you know, that will really let nature in.
We're putting the fan in the hole. We will have an opening skylight that will be bigger than this. So don't you worry.
Alright, so we have a pot of hammerite paint, thankfully not completely dry. And we're just covering the raw exposed edges.
Otherwise they will rust. Whilst that's drying, we may as well stick our wooden frame to the underneath of the van, like so. And we're going to use our trusty Sikaflex Pro 3 that we seemingly use for everything nowadays. It's very good. What we're going to do is we're going to stick it to the ceiling here, and then we're going to clamp it and let it dry for like half an hour to an hour. That way, when we screw in from the top, the screws will basically sandwich it in, but at least this will be stuck a little bit, so the screws have something to go into. Alright, so we've let it set for an hour. It hasn't set fully, obviously Sikaflex takes a while to dry, but it should stick enough so that the wood doesn't fall off with gravity. So now that it's clean, we're going to be sticking this stuff. It's butyl tape, mastic tape. Essentially, it's just rubberized sticky putty. So we need to build this up in layers here between the ridges so that it gets to the same height as the ridges, and that way when we put the plastic thing on, it will all sit on a level surface.
Alright, so we've done the gaps, and now we're gonna run a full length of this putty all the way across, just to make sure that this is actually level, and then we also get to cover these as well. Also, you'll be glad to know that the frame has not fallen yet, which means that there's a chance that it's stuck enough.
So after a bit of trial and error, the plastic does fit. The best tip that we found is that before you put any of this butyl tape on, dry fit the plastic shroud, and then where the screw holes are, mark with a pen so you know where the screw holes are meant to go into the van, and that way when you're putting on the butyl tape you can center the screw holes in the middle of the butyl tape so that when you put the plastic on afterwards, the screws will actually go through the butyl tape instead of in midair.
Don't just mark the holes, mark the outermost line of the lip. That way the butyl tape will not be sticking out. So we're about to pull down on this. We did manage to get all of the holes to be on top of some putty. So as you press down, those little teeth sink into the putty and basically make it a bit more waterproof.
Let's get screwing.
Not as stuck as we thought.
Huh. Just stick it back on, it'll be fine.
I think we should drill the holes first.
Yeah.
So what happened is we started drilling the holes to obviously screw the thing in, and this basically the vibrations and the pressure started to unstick it.
So what we're going to do, we're going to use some wood and our clamps and a person to hold the wooden frame from underneath whilst we drill the holes and screw our screws in from above.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so yeah. Let's do that because my hands are cold.
We're going to pre-drill a 2.5mm pilot hole through all the holes, so that way the self-tapping screws should catch and screw themselves in.
We have managed to screw 4 of the screws in. We did break a drill. Oh, also I put more sealant on my jacket, whatever. So we managed to do literally the 4 flat parts, and what broke the drill bit was the ribs themselves, because the drill kept dancing around and you couldn't catch basically to grip and start spinning. Right, I'm gonna go back up.
As you can see, when I start to drill in a pilot hole, the drill wants to go off to the side and has drilled into the plastic a little bit there. and the lateral force when you try and straighten a bending drill bit is that it breaks. So we do have another one, luckily. Just got to be very careful. It may end up that they go in a little bit wonky, but there's plenty of wood beneath it to grip for these screws, so I don't think it would matter too much. But as long as it holds it in place, it'll be fine. And this is not the waterproofing part, the sealant comes after. The heat of the drilling is melting the putty.
Yeah, so remove it before it actually clogs up that turning mechanism, because it's pretty much nearly there.
Voila.
Okay.
Right, so that's all of the holes pre-drilled. And the screws that we're using are these 5cm zinc self-tapping screws. Now, they do say self-tapping. However, when we tried initially with our electric screwdriver to put them in, they don't really self-tap that well through this metal. So it's always best to pre-drill pilot holes that are slightly smaller than the screw in order to start them off. And when you're putting the screws in into the shroud, it's always best to do it in a crisscross pattern because you want to get as even tension as possible across the whole surface.
We have Secureflex 521. The caravan one, like the one that pretty much everybody uses. It's advertised that it's best used for, you know, camper van things and sealing these fans and whatever you put on the roof. It's supposed to be UV and weather resistant. How much like different it is from any other sealant that there is out there, I can't confirm, but we're gonna use it because it's worked for everybody else. So the most important thing is that whatever you use to seal this is neutral cure. It doesn't have acetic acid, otherwise it's gonna eat through the metal. So I'm gonna use the excess to cover the hole, the screws, to prevent them from rusting, and to also make sure that no water goes down through them. Not the neatest job. We probably have too much sealant on there, but better more than too little, isn't that right?
Indeed. At least this way, if we put more than enough, it will definitely not leak. So literally the only thing left to do is put the fan on and screw 4 screws in, and that's it. It's done. So these are the screw holes that will ultimately screw into the frame where these 4 metal brackets are. Now the best way to do it, if you extend the fan all the way manually, that basically gives you the maximum exposure. And then you've got to not screw this up. So the wires go through and come in. I declare this fan open.
And now all we need to do is just do the wiring, but first we have to do our other electrical, the actual, you know, system that will make this run. We're gonna do a separate video on that, but there you go. See you in the next one. Woohoo! Can you get
down? Let me down. Please.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Please.
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 Please.